What up, guys? Happy holidays from me to everybody out there. Hope you guys are enjoying your days off, your school days off, whatever. It's your boy Zaf. You guys know me. You guys know how I roll on Mondays, 7 o'clock. A little bit late today because I had some sand in my ears, but you know I had to get nice and fresh for the stream tonight. But today, we're going to be talking about goals. So today's stream is going to be focused on... That's funny. I just told you my goals for the stream, and we're talking about goals. Isn't that kind of ironic? But anyways, so today we're going to be talking about goals. So a lot of people want to get better, but they don't really understand how to get better. Or maybe they do know how to get better, but they kind of just delve off of the path towards getting better. They maybe get overwhelmed at the process. And today is just about just reducing all of that pressure from trying to improve and just simplifying it. Okay, so that's what today's going to be about. Today's going to be a short stream, but it's going to get straight to the point. And it's going to be a nice, like, probably a 20-25 minute stream, to be honest. But that is because the point of the stream is to talk about goals, and goals should be simple in nature. They don't need to be complex. The objective leading up to the goal can be complex. That's where it's the series of things introduced to tell you, I gotta do this, do that, do this, do that. But the goal itself should be simple, because you should always just look at the goal as a representation of what it is that you value and are trying to accomplish, and they should harmonize together. There shouldn't be some conflict. There shouldn't be this tension because you look at the mountain and you're like, damn, I have to scale this mountain, you know? No, you just gotta take the appropriate steps, and then all of a sudden you're at the top of the peak looking down like, damn, how did I get here? Okay, so what's up, Almaz? What's going on, Ronan? Thank you guys for tuning in as always. So today is going to be very important for all of you guys, because regardless of what you're trying to train in a fighting game, you need to know the reason why you're doing it. Okay, so that is the primary focus. Whether it is you're using training mode, whether it is you're going online, whether it is you're trying to learn a new character, you need to be specific, okay? And being specific it's only possible when you have a goal. All right, your goal doesn't need to be specific, but it's very broad actually. Your objective is the more specified version of it, but the goal should be a specific thing, or within, it's kind of tailored to a certain direction, okay? And then you know where to focus. All right, so let's get into it. So let's go to this, you know me with my black background. This is where a bunch of words are gonna pop up. Okay, so these words, as they appear, they're gonna have some sort of significance to improve not only just Street Fighter play, but life in general, you know, because that's how I roll. I like to improve as a person. That's what makes me a better player, okay? Because all of this is just a reflection of who you are outside of the game. Your biases, your experiences, your preferences, the likes, okay? So let's talk about goals. So what is a goal? Fancy. You like how that just popped up? Okay, so what is a goal? So a goal is an object of a person's ambition or effort, okay? It's an aim or desired result. So if you look at this, it's just concentration of your energy. It's directed at something very specific, okay? So a lot of times, people will just kind of hop online, right? And they just play. But they don't know why they're not getting better. Or they go in training mode and they just keep practicing combos, but they're like, damn, my footsies aren't good. Why are my footsies not good? That's why it's so important to just take a big step back. And you have to question yourself sometimes, and you have to reassess your intentions behind why you're doing something. If you don't know why you're doing something, then you're just going with the motion, you're just going with the flow. Am I lying? If I'm lying, I'm flying, right? And I'm still on the ground. So therefore, you got to be specific. You have to concentrate, and you have to be specialized over the course of a session for whatever it is you're trying to do. All right? If I'm sitting there playing basketball and I'm trying to just get better at dribbling, why on God's earth would I be shooting threes? That doesn't make sense. I should be focusing on this if I'm trying to improve in this area as a basketball player. Okay? Same thing with fighting games. If I'm trying to improve my anti-airs, why am I practicing setups? You know, unless of course those setups like they tie into the anti-airs, but that's another story. I'm just trying to be simple. We're gonna keep this simple, okay? So you have to concentrate your energy. You have to be lasered in on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what it is, what result that you want. Okay, so we can talk about like matchups, for example. If I am trying to accomplish A with said character, but then I'm playing outside of A, I'm actually doing things by playing with a different focus. I'm focusing on a completely different goal, and the way I'm playing to achieve B is ruining the chances of me accomplishing A. That's why it's important to understand your character design, because if you have a focus that is outside of the character's design, then maybe the character isn't for you. All right, like, not to say like you can't rush down with Sim, but if you're always trying to rush down with Dalsim and you're not taking the time to understand other aspects or strengths of the character, then maybe you should just kind of move on. All right, depending on your goal, of course. If it's just you're trying to learn how to exercise and broaden the boundaries of a character, you're trying to just stretch your imagination with a character beyond what the community's interpretation is, that's a different goal. You see, being specific in that way, that will alleviate you from a lot of stress. But if you're trying to be a top player and you're trying to get consistency, but you're doing inconsistent things, you can't be upset at your results. Okay, so it's about being honest. Being honest is kind of scary because then you have to hold yourself accountable. But that's what we do in my stream. There's no way around it. I hold you guys accountable because I expect you to hold me accountable. All right? But it's all love. All right. So, concentrated energy equals focus. And now, what is focus? I found this really cool acronym for focus online, and it is follow one course until successful. So, the thing is that a lot of people, they will have a goal, right, or they have an objective, which is, again, is a specified goal, and they try to work towards it, but then they just kind of delve off path, and then they go into their muscle memory. Okay, so this is breaking your focus, and this is an enemy of your focus. All right, so let's go into our next slide. We're gonna get back to that in a second, but how to accomplish a goal. So if you want to accomplish a goal, the number one thing I'd say is work backwards. So let's say I am playing Zangief, okay? I'm playing Zangief. Now, naturally, when the round starts, where are we? We are always going to be at zone 3. That's the spacing. It's static. It never changes, no matter what. It's not Mortal Kombat where if two characters get knocked down, we start wherever, you know, we got knocked down or whatever, right? It's static every single round. It refreshes to the same exact spacing between those two characters, okay? So if you're playing as Zangief, every single round you have to basically work towards his most optimal range, which is up close in his SPD range. That's where he's going to get all of his damage. That's where he's going to get all of his Oki, his pressure, his setups, etc., right? So he is going to want to work towards that. Now, the thing is, though, if you don't think backwards, what ends up happening is that when you end up in a bad situation, which can happen a lot of times as a Zangief player, you end up further away, for example. You're not as close. Some people, because they don't have a vision, they don't have a focus, what ends up happening is that they get too emotional and they get very distraught and annoyed, and they don't know how to go about what it is that's happening in real time. So now they are further away from physically, literally from the range they want to be, and also in terms of accomplishing what they want. But now their energy is waning, their focus is draining, and their motivation and confidence is seeping away also, right? But if you work backwards, it's a lot easier for you to keep track and measure your progress. If you can't measure your progress, then you're not really making any progress, okay? You're just in you're in a void, and you don't even know how to account for the things that are happening to you. But working backwards is very important, because then you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you can see the contradictions in your behaviors and where you are on the screen, or where you are in training, where you are in a set. Whatever you're doing, you can see the contradictions right away, because you know, hey, I'm Zangief. I'm supposed to be all the way in zone 1. I'm supposed to be in throw range. Why am I full screen? Something happened. and it makes it a lot easier for you to adapt because you can identify it way faster. You see? So having a goal not only makes you a stronger player in a sense of like consistency, but it can also help you overcome the challenges that are naturally going to happen to you as a player. All right? So, okay. So working backwards, that's how you would accomplish a goal. Another way, though, is you also have to prioritize. So you want to learn how to lose the right way and not win the wrong way. So that sounds really weird, but if you think about it, you go online and you play ranked, right? And you keep winning, but you keep winning the same way. You go offline and you just get just destroyed, all right? But then you as a player, your goal is to get top 8 at a major, but yet you keep drowning in pools and you're frustrated. There's this anger about the results that you're not getting, okay? So the reason may be that because when you are online where you're in that training environment, you're not necessarily learning. You're not putting yourself in a circumstance to just fully harness growth, okay? So you're limiting yourself because of your focus, because of how you're expending your energy. Your energy is being spent towards winning as opposed towards learning, okay? So it's not to say that you can't do both, but for the most part, you're going to have to choose one over the other. And a majority of the time, if you're not at the very highest level, you should always prioritize learning. Even when you get to the highest level, look at Daigo. Daigo still will sacrifice situations, etc., just because he wants to learn. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, so if I'm losing the right way, that means I'm challenging myself. That means that I am in new situations. I am putting my ego to the side for growth, for consistency, for action, okay? That is another thing too. Action is so crucial for growth, but a lot of people don't want to take the action. A lot of people are stagnant as players and as people. Whatever function they have in society, they are just stagnant because they're not willing to take necessary action in order to grow, okay? They kind of want to expedite the process without the pain that's associated with it. You have to be willing to prioritize. Like, I know I'm going to lose if I want to learn how to scramble people because I'm not the best at scrambling people, right? Like, if I'm in scramble situations, I'm not the greatest at it. But I do know that as long as I put myself in those situations and, you know, and I'm willing to try new things no matter how uncomfortable it may seem, then that's losing the right way because now I'm going to get better. Even if I get better by 1% every single day, what happens? After 100 days, I'm 100% better as a player. Okay? So that's how you want to be. And if you win the wrong way, it's just, to keep it simple, you're just winning off of muscle memory. You're not doing anything new. You're going to be the same player today and tomorrow and the next day. And you know what happens in the world when you don't change? The world is constantly changing, so the distance between you and the world is growing at a crazy rate every single moment that you aren't growing. Okay? And lastly, how you accomplish a goal is you want to identify the potential challenges in advance. So this is really important because especially if you're an emotional person, like I'm an emotional person. So if I don't identify potential challenges in advance, when they occur, I get more flustered by it, right? So me like now, especially because I've identified that as a challenge, me not identifying challenges, that's actually helped me when something that's happened that's outside of my calculations occurs. It keeps me really like zoned in and logical, you know, and just very centered. I don't sway with my emotions. I just understand that action needs to be taken in order to correct whatever occurs, right? So you want to identify the potential challenges in advance. So let's say if you're playing in a matchup and you know that as Dalsim, again, for example, Dalsim, he wants to keep his opponent away, right? Now, if Dalsim wants to keep his opponent away, what are the potential challenges that he's going to have to face in a match? All right, like regardless of who the player is, he knows that jump-ins are going to be very important he has to make sure that he snipes people out of the air. Excuse me, his anti-air game has to be on point because that's going to be one of the most common ways that his opponent is going to try to close the gap, okay? Because Dawson wins at that range that the match naturally starts at. So he knows the opponent doesn't want to be there or any further, okay? For the most part. So he is going to identify that as a potential challenge. So anything that is occurring at, like, that is closing the gap, he's going to try to nullify it to the best of his abilities, okay? Now, the enemies of concentration. Now, this is important. Like, when we were talking about how concentrated energy equals focus, you want to be aware of what can break your concentration, okay? So these are the three things that at least I've noticed that tend to break concentration on players. So you can use this against people, like if you're playing them in a match or something like that, okay? But I would definitely say complexity is number one, because when somebody has a very complex goal, it demotivates people and it makes it very difficult to make snap decisions. In a fight, in a street fight, a Street Fighter, it's a very fast-paced game. So when you're complicated, you're playing slow because now you're trying to analyze and go through a process in a series of deliberations. So if you can manage to simplify things, you can simplify, then it makes it a lot easier for you to do things at the moment they need to be done. Okay, because the longer it takes to do something, the window for error starts to just grow. It starts to get larger and larger, and then more and more mistakes can seep into your strategy. Okay, so complexity, it is an enemy of concentration. It's an enemy of learning too, because a child isn't complicated. Okay, that's when you're learning, you're a child. You return to your childlike state. So when you're a child and you fall, guess what? You fall and you get up and you're like, oh, okay, I fell. Let me try it again, right? And they just keep trying to make small adjustments, and they get a little bit better, and then all of a sudden they can take 2 steps. All right. So if you want to learn how to dash, do the same thing. Learn how to dash. You don't need to be complicated about it. Figure out, how can I dash differently? All right. And you just simplify it like that. Don't turn it into anything more complex than that, where it's like win rounds doing this, doing that, doing the, like, start off small and then gradually increase, because what is complex at the beginning stages turns out to be simplified in the later stages, because you've gone through the process of internalizing the lessons. You know, you've learned how to dash simply. You learn how to dash on plus frames. You learn how to dash in neutral. You learn how to dash twice. You learn how to dash after jump-ins. You've learned how to introduce all this variety, and then you learn, how do I dash, to throw somebody off? How do I dash in a way that makes people with buttons? And then that's when it becomes advanced, but it's simple to you because you've already mastered the simple things about it. All right. So instead of it being a super complicated, extremely advanced, abstract idea, it's now dumbed down because you've understood it, you've grasped it, the baby steps leading up to it. So now that advanced concept can get knocked down to an intermediate, or maybe even lower, depending on how naturally good you are at those type of decisions. Okay, because everybody's different at different things in fighting games. Okay. And another enemy of concentration is an unspecified goal. So if you're not specific about a goal, you end up leaving initiative to your opponent, and you kind of just you're playing black in chess and your opponent is white. And we all know white goes first. And in a game like chess, it's turn-based, right? So basically, instead of Street Fighter being we both move at the same time type of game, you've kind of turned it somewhat into a turn-based game because you're not specific with your goal. And now you're allowing your opponent to dictate the match, and then you're just responding, okay? And you are not always going to know what your opponent's going to do. You're not always going to respond right away to what your opponent is doing correctly, all right? So having an unspecified goal basically makes it a lot easier for your opponent to accomplish what they want to do, because it makes it more difficult for you to realize when you're making mistakes, to realize that you're not playing to the strengths of your character, to realize that you're not taking advantage of the advantages that you have in a match, to take advantage of those psychological nudges that you have on your opponent because of the strengths that you're positioning, or the situations that you're in, okay? And then lastly, I'd say an enemy of concentration would be having conflicting values or contradicting actions. So let's say that I am trying to learn, this goes back to what I was saying with muscle memories, like I'm trying to learn how to throw fireballs. But then for some strange reason, at a certain point in the match, I start to play footsies with buttons, or I start to jump, or I start to use other special attacks, things that are outside of that zoning nature. When you start to do that, it's conflicting with the value that you have as a player at that moment, or at least going into the match, where you said, hey, I'm trying to learn right now. This is a learning session. I'm not in a tournament. Practice is practice, okay? When you are in practice, you practice like it's practice. You don't train like it's a tournament. That doesn't make sense. You're right. You do that. You leave that leading up to the tournament, okay? So everything leading up to the training for the tournament, to that day of intensity or whatever, everything should just be volume. The metric should just be, I'm going to do this and improve in increments, as opposed to training through intensity, because it's only going to demotivate you. Every time you're going to think of training in a game, you're going to be like, damn, I have to go 120% today. I don't really feel like training, you know, and then you're going to dodge it. You're not going to go and have that concentrated effort in a lab like you would, all right, as if you were doing it incrementally in steps, gradually, all right? Stop trying to swing for home runs. Just pick your spots, pick that one thing that you want to work on and work on it. And then graduate. Move on to the next thing, okay? You don't have those conflicting values where you're doing one thing, or you want to do one thing, but then you're doing something completely different, okay? So like, you know, if I'm trying to practice being patient, why focus on winning? You know, just focus on the moments. Focus on the things that you need to focus on to help you exercise those muscles. That's what I mean by having those conflicted values, okay? So I want to show you guys this right here, right? This is really funny. So this is Chris G's tweet from after he played Snake Eyes. He said, everything is a 7-3 matchup until you have to guess. I'm sad now, LOL. GG Snake Eyes when the weekend is over. Not bad though. So I brought this up because one of the videos we're about to watch is Snake Eyes versus Chris G from Summer Jam this past weekend. And that matchup is in Guile's favor. Definitely, right? It's pretty obvious it's in Guile's favor. Just looking at the design of the characters, the strengths, the weaknesses, the pros and the cons, and what they take advantage of in terms of the engine, etc., etc. Guile definitely beats Zangief. It's obvious. But it was just funny because if you look at Chris G's tweet, it's saying everything is a 7-3 matchup, meaning it's in Guile's favor until you have to guess. So he's saying that until he's put in a situation where he has to guess, Guile destroys Geef, okay? But it's such a simple tweet that it's so easy to overlook what he's saying. So from Snake Eyes' perspective, that's all he has to do is put you in a 7-3, in a situation where you have to guess, because then the 7-3 matchup, it doesn't fucking matter at that point, right? So we're gonna watch. We're actually going to watch the set. We're gonna watch a little bit of the set from Summer Jam, okay? And I want you guys to just pay attention to this, like the things that we talked about in terms of like the enemies of concentration, the complexity, you know, not having a goal, and what was the last one? It was that, oh, the conflicting values. Okay, there you go. Right, and then we talked about how you accomplish it. You got to work backwards. You want to prioritize, right? You want to lose the right way, not win in the wrong way, and identify the potential challenges in advance. So, like, if you look at it from this match from Zangief's perspective, we work backwards. We know that Geef needs to get in. Okay, it's going to be a lot easier for Zangief to work backwards because he kind of has to, you know, because he's not at his strength right away. Guile is at that range he wants to be right from the jump of the round. As soon as the round says fight, he's already winning the match, technically speaking, right? So Guile doesn't, it's less likely for a Guile player to think backwards, all right? And if they're going to do that, they're going to think of like backwards in terms of like, oh, when Geef has meter, when he has V-trigger in the situation, he's most likely going to start looking for fireball. So when I get to that point, then I'll deal with that, all right? So there's that. But you'll also notice like Snake Eyes will prioritize, like he understands the importance of taking advantage of his character's health. All right, and you're gonna see Chris actually messes up a lot, and he puts himself in really bad situations because he prioritizes winning the wrong situations. He prioritizes winning through damage in weird situations where he doesn't have to go for that. He doesn't have to take the risks that he takes. All right? Because a lot of times with top players, especially in our community in the US, they think that if you don't make the correct choice right away, then you're automatically gonna lose. Like, no, that's not how it works. Okay, like things can snowball when you have that belief, but that's only because you're manifesting that belief into your playstyle. You start to think that if you have this belief that, oh, if I mess up right now, I'm going to lose, then guess what? You're gonna start doing things that help you fulfill that prophecy. Okay. But if you just play in a way where you prioritize, where you're like, all I need to do is this one thing, all right, in this situation, but then a new situation happens, you're like, okay, new situation. What is the next best thing now that we're in a new situation? And you just focus on that, all right? You don't focus on trying to end the match right away, because you're gonna see Chris loses round two the way he loses just because of that, all right? Okay, so let's get into it. So you see he's playing into his strengths. All right, that's good. He closes the ground. You see how Zangief, he moved backwards and he closed the ground the dash. That's good. That's great. All right. So he moves in. All right. Nice. Okay, so that's good because he's seen an increase in risk taking, right? Because he's seen this. That's a big move. That's a very big move. So that's telling him, okay, it's possible that Snake Eyes is ready to commit to bigger risk because now he's taking bigger risks on the ground. So if usually somebody takes a bigger risk on the ground, it's going to translate to bigger risks in the air too, right? Hence why jab jab. Hence why jump flash kick. Okay, cool. But you see, that's why he doesn't do the V skill boom right away. He does the V skill, but he just waits because he saw it again. All right. But you see, Snake sees that. So he's like, oh, okay. I see that you're being careful when I start doing this. All right. Now, small bits of information. So usually when a player gets hit with a light attack and they're standing, as you can see right here, he's standing and gets hit. Usually that's something that grapplers see and they think that you're trying to jump away. Okay, so I'm assuming that's like when he goes for the strong here, he's probably anticipating that it's gonna air reset him or something like that, right? So he's thinking that, okay, he's trying to get away from me, hence why he does the roundhouse. And he was right because he did backdash, but the pushback from the stand strong pushed him far enough away to where he avoided it. See, again, he goes back to the jabs. Nice. So he doesn't give him what he wants, right? And it results in that. Now, if I was Chris in that situation, so this is where it's like it's important to be aware of what your goal is, the things you're trying to do to accomplish your goal. Like we see his tactics, right, with the jab whiffs, okay, but then being aware of the potential hazards like we talked about, okay? So being aware of, well, what if he doesn't bite? What if he doesn't jump on my jabs? What do I do? Because I still don't have information of what he does when I'm doing that and he doesn't do anything. You see what I'm saying? So let me rephrase that. So what is it that Snake Eyes is doing if he's not jumping? Why is he still on the ground when I did jab? I did jab before and he jumped. So what changed? Something changed, but he didn't take the time to realize that. See? He gets crush countered. That's good. See, that V reversal is good because he doesn't hold on to it for the damage. Like a lot of people might hold on to that V trigger because they want the damage, but when you think about it, he's getting all of that gray health and the positioning because he knows the spacing he wants to be at in order to win a match. All right, but this is what I'm talking about when it comes to trying to win the wrong way. All right, like look at his health. All right, and you see he has a V reversal left. So any sort of situation that he blocks a heavy attack, he can V reversal out of it and close the gap again. Okay, but for him to do that, it was just like, all right, now you're in a bad situation. Okay. So we see standard Guile zoning, keep maintaining that zone 3 space. That was a good mix-up by throwing in the EX to throw off timing, to throw off also properties, right? Because obviously it hits twice. So it can just be enough to throw off a Zangief. So how did he get that crush counter? Alright. So it's the same thing we talked about, where he hits him standing, but now he knows that he wants to backdash. Like immediately, he's trying to get away from that situation. So he doesn't even do the stand strong this time, because every time he did it, he kept pushing him out of range of the stand heavy kick. So now he just goes straight into the heavy kick. See? Right away. That was a good punish. Okay, but you see, but now the issue is that he's moving back too much. Now, this is what separates a Guile from like a Chris G Guile from a Knuckle Dude Guile, because Dude's Guile, he has played enough and learned enough to learn how to fight standing still, to learn how to fight moving forward with his character, because he understands the strengths of the character, obviously, right? But at the same time, he knows like the detriment of moving back and giving Zangief too much space. All right, because if you give Zangief too much space, he's gonna start empty jumping into ranges where it's gonna be very difficult for Guile to anti-air, and on top of that, Guile's cornering himself. All right, so you watch this round. You see how he's now just walking forward? Snake Eyes just understands, like, I want to get close to him, right? He keeps moving backwards. So obviously, I'm not getting close to him. But because there's a corner, this isn't Tekken with infinite, like, you know, there's those stages with, like, no walls. At some point, I'm going to get to where I want if this continues, all right? Either he's going to keep on doing it till we get to the corner and I'm in throw range, or he's going to put up an obstacle at some point, all right? But you see? Now look. You see, and now he risked all of that. Instead of him just maintaining the spacing, he put himself in a bad situation by moving back, right? And then he's like, oh, wait a minute, let me not do that. Let me get out of this situation. It's like his butt touched the wall and he's like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't be here right now. You know, and that's something that Zangief, like masterful Zangiefs are aware of. They're aware, this is like dating back to ST days, they're aware of when somebody wants to remove themselves from a bad positioning and where they might possibly overcommit. So Snake Eyes basically turns this into an advantageous position, you see? How else would he react like that as quick as he did? Because he knew. He knew the situation. It's a situation he's seen thousands of times. But you see, now because he's moving back, he's throwing off his reactions because he's playing defensively in his head. Like, instead of just playing and neutralizing the character with confidence, like, he's trying to just end the match by any means. That's why he's getting so active right now. And you know, when you're attacking, you're increasing the chances of your opponent capitalizing on mistakes, all right? Because when you attack, you're not blocking, right? So you see, he keeps doing these things. Imagine if he neutral jumped or if he jumped in or something crazy like that. He would have he potentially even crush countered him, right? See, he could have punished that if he didn't commit to the playstyle that he's playing right now. But you see, and look what happens. And now you know the rest. Death. Alright, so we're gonna watch the last round. Look at how little health, how little damage he's taken, but look at how much ground he just covered since the start of the round. See? So like he plays offensively to try to take advantage, right? To try to confuse him or whatever. But Guile doesn't need to confuse Zangief. He can just play very solid. Like, if you watch how Daigo plays against Zangief, dating back to like Street Fighter 4, when he played Ryo against Snake Eyes, right? He looked like on another level compared to Snake Eyes. And we know Snake Eyes has the footsies to beat anybody in the world, right? He has the confidence, the reads, his conditioning. Like, he can beat anybody. Like, he hasn't beaten everybody, but he's capable of doing it, obviously, right? But we look at Daigo when he played him. But you look at Snake Eyes play against like John Choi or against Vaya, and he makes them look kind of like pedestrians sometimes, right? But when you watch him play against Daigo at Evo, I think it was 2012, I believe, like Daigo just made it look so easy. Actually, it was 2013, but he made it look so easy, and it was just how simple his play style was, and when you're stronger at achieving your goal, and your goal is simple also, your opponent feels like they have to do something outside of their calculation to win. And guess what that means? That means they're now adding complexity to their angles of attack. All right, so now they're doing things that are outside of their comfort levels in a match. So they're trying to turn the match into training mode, but with all of the added pressure and the higher stakes. And it's a lot less likely that somebody's going to be able to do that. Okay. But you see how much more active Chris is? Chris is playing so complicated right now, but it looks like Snake is not really doing anything. He's played with 2 buttons right now. Okay, now 3. Light kick, okay. Stand, fierce, turn, roundhouse, and crouching jab. But look at how many different buttons Chris has used. How many different movements he's used. How many different options he's tried to resort to. And that's that. So, that right there is a prime example of just being simple in your approach. All right, like if you play your character, you understand the strengths of your character, play in a way that exercises those strengths, or in a way that helps you learn as a player. It's as simple as that. Like if you are doing things that are not conducive to what you're trying to accomplish, then you need to remove it, subtract it, get rid of it. Okay, it doesn't mean you're a bad player because you're getting rid of stuff or not doing stuff. That's fictitious. Don't believe that. All right, that's just community poison. You need to have a focus, choose one thing, and work on it. If you go in the lab today and you want to work on hit confirms, practice hit confirms. Okay, try not to delve off path and get distracted by other shiny objects in the middle of your training. Okay, that's what this entire stream was about today, is to just zone in on what it is you're trying to improve at. Okay, so if you watch my streams, and there are tons of videos obviously that I've put on my stream, on my YouTube channel rather, but if you go over there and you're like, damn, I need to work on specifically this element today, work on that element. The footsies element, that hand guy is a perfect example of this. We've covered how many elements? There's like 30 something elements, right? And it's very easy to get overwhelmed and say, whoa, bro, like you expect me to do all that? Like, holy shit, how am I gonna do that? Like, what the hell? Just pick one thing and work on it. Because what ends up happening is that you get, through action leads to inspiration, and then that follows and turns into motivation. A lot of people seem to think you need to be motivated to act, okay? And I want you guys to understand that that is a myth, okay? That is a fallacy. It's not real. You don't need motivation to take action, okay? You can take action and that can lead to motivation. So if you feel like, damn, I don't feel like doing this today, I don't feel like going into the lab, just do it, and in 5-10 minutes you'll probably be like, damn, I'm glad I picked up the sticks today. Go to the gym, do the same thing. You don't feel like going to the gym, but I guarantee when you get there, you'll be so in the zone, you'll be like, damn, I'm glad I came here. Because you never regret going to the gym. You never do. You only regret not going, okay? You only regret not taking the action. Feel me? So I want you guys to look at training that way, look at life that way, and apply that to anything in life, all right? So if you guys are in here, anybody in here is trying to get a certain type of physique, trying to get a certain job, make certain connections or networks in life, just take action. Do it right now, okay? Just be the little kid that impressed all of his family members because he knew how to set up the DVD player. And everybody's like, this is crazy. I love this kid.